Our last editorial panelist is Anna Michaels. Over the course of more than 8 years at Sourcebooks, Anna has edited a wide variety of projects, most recently focusing on adult fiction, particularly mystery, suspense, and thriller. And she also likes nonfiction, including the 2 million copy bestseller parenting classic 1, 2, 3 Magic. Her favorite projects combine distinctive narrative voices with gripping content, and she's always on the lookout for authors dedicated to the craft of writing and building their careers. Anna will be interviewing Revis Z. Wortham. Revis is the critically acclaimed author of the Red River Mysteries, set in rural Northeast Texas in the 1960s. I just want you to know my husband is a big fan of these. As a boy, he hunted and fished the river bottoms near Dakota, the inspiration for the fictional location. He's also the author of a thriller series featuring Texas Ranger Sonny Hawk. He teaches writing at a wide variety of venues, including local libraries and writers' conferences. And he's been a newspaper columnist and magazine writer since 1988 and has been the humor editor for Texas Fish and Game magazine for the past 22 years. He and his wife, Sheena, live in Northeast Texas. Check out his website at www.reviszwortham.com. Anna, Revis, we can't wait to hear about mysteries and murder in small town Texas.
Thanks, Margaret. It's great to be here, everybody. And hello, Revis. Nice to see you.
Pleasure is mine, Anna. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I love your office. It's very distinguished.
Well, we just had it built a few months ago, and if I tilt this thing, take a look at this. It just keeps going. And
oh,
going.
My gosh.
Wow. There's a ladder required to get to the other side.
I think that's all of our dream here on this call. We all want a library with a ladder in it. That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. So as Margaret said, Revis is the author of the Texas Red River Mysteries. And Revis, you and I just started getting to know each other about 1.5 years ago when Sourcebooks acquired your original publisher, Poison Pen Press. And so this relaunch of The Rock Hole, which is the first book in your series, is kind of our first time getting to work together on one of your books. But I have a feeling we will have many more in our future together.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. And my agent in New York speaks very highly of you also.
Oh, wonderful. That's always great to hear. So the Texas Red River Mysteries, this is an incredible series that takes place in Northeast Texas during the turbulent 1960s and follows farmer and part-time constable Ned Parker as various internal and external forces rock his small community. And of course, you're a Texas author. And I think we would all love to hear a little bit about how Texas plays a role in your books, because it's such a huge part of your storytelling.
Well, thank you. Texas is actually a character unto itself here in all of my books. Texans, especially Texans like myself, fourth generation Texans, we bleed pride. And what we want everyone to understand is that this is a wonderful state. And we have great people who live here. The Rock Hole came about because my granddad was a constable back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and early 70s. He was one of those guys. He rode a tractor during the day, plowed his crops, took care of his cattle, and then in the evenings he would climb off of it, take his overalls off, put on a little small badge, and he was the local constabulary for a tiny community in Northeast Texas up on the Red River. I was that kid. I think a lot of writers were like me. I was always around people, listening to what they had to say, filing things away in my brain to use at some other point. Because when I was 7 or 8 years old, I was going to be a writer by God, one way or the other. And so it has worked for me, following his footsteps, because I rode around with him a lot as when he would go on some of his visits to people there in the community that needed him. And as I grew older, I would see more of what he did. And he was working a case that today we would know was a budding serial killer. But at that time, no one had really heard about serial killers per se. And so as he investigated that case, I was in his back pocket a lot of the time, listening to what was going on and what was happening. And that became the basis for the Rock Hole. And then that became the basis for the Red River series.
Well, it's hard to see how you could have avoided becoming a mystery writer growing up with that kind of stuff going on. One of the things that I think makes your series so incredibly relevant today is the sort of cultural turmoil that the characters go through during this very turbulent time in American history that you're writing about, that mirrors in a lot of ways what we're living through today. And I wanted to talk about the fact that the way the town that you depict in your series, there's racism that's running pretty rampant through that community. You take that on, head on in your books. And could you talk about the relationship between John Washington and Ned Parker, two lawmen, one black, one white? And was John Washington based on a real figure from history?
Yes, he was. John Washington was based on a deputy sheriff in Lamar County in Paris, Texas, named Leroy Sears. Mr. Leroy was probably the biggest human I'd ever seen in my life up until I was 21. He was a giant of a man. He was almost mythical. And he and my granddad would work together to deal with issues that would arise during those. In the 60s were very turbulent, as you said. It was almost a mirror of what we're seeing right now. And the racism was there, but people with one simple goal in mind, to do what's right, are never deterred by racism. They work together to solve what issues might come up. And so John Washington became a solid foundational character in this series, along with Ned Parker, who was based on my granddad. He was a great guy. Every time he would see me, Mr. Sears would reach down and pick me up and put me on his shoulder. And that was akin to riding the Ferris wheel at the county fair. I mean, he was just way on up there. And he was so good to us kids. And I think that's what we all need to look at. We need to understand that we're all the same. We all have the same goals. And I looked at that in The Rock Hole. You'll see some rough language in there, but the language is used in dialogue. You'll see some very rough scenes that were taken from things that actually happened. I wanted to depict the real world, but at the same time, I wanted to wrap my fictional world around it. And I think we were very successful with The Rock Hole. When it first came out in 2011, it just didn't get the distribution we had hoped for. And even though Kirkus Reviews listed it as one of their top 12 mysteries of 2011, we didn't quite get off the ground. But I think we're going to do it with this one and with this re-release.
It's definitely, I think, an opportunity, especially with what we're living through right now. And one of the things that I think is so amazing about mysteries and crime fiction, just as a genre, is how writers like you are able to put a spotlight on various issues that we're facing in society, whether it's racism, whether it's drug use, there's crime fiction about everything, about every place where the fabric of our society tears a little bit. That's where crime writers zip right in there, and they try to write a story that in the end, hopefully, puts back a little bit of the world in order. And I think that's what, readers like me love that so much about the genre. So very excited about the relaunch of your series, Revis.
Oh, I am thrilled, and I have a lot of people looking forward to seeing it. I think the small community in this book, Center Springs, which is the community of Checotah, as Ms. Coffey said a moment ago, it's a microcosm of the world. It's just a distilled, small microcosm of what's going on outside in the world. And I think the readers become a part of the family that I depict here in these books. And that's one of the things I get from a lot of readers. They love the family aspect. You get to see what's going on in the world from three different sets of eyes, from two kids that are 10 years old, from some adults that are in their 20s, and then from the elders. I used to call them old folks until this mustache went white. But you see it from their point of view also. So it cuts across a wide swath and lets you see what's going on in the world. And I think the greatest comment I've gotten off of these books is my father-in-law, who he's 90 almost now. He had never read a book after he got out of high school, but he reads these as soon as they come out. He said, I want to read these books because the Parker family is just like my family, and I want to see what my kinfolk are doing. That's pretty great praise, I think.
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
All right, we got some people who love your bookshelves, Revis, and Shelley says she can't wait to read this because she's from Paris. So lots of excitement over here. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this conversation. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it is my pleasure to meet all of y'all and to hear what you have to say and see the works that you've done. And you folks over at Sourcebooks were just absolutely wonderful. I love all of you. I look forward to hugging you next as soon as I get a chance to.
We look forward to that too. We're ready.
Thank you.